I'm sure you'll agree that it's probably fair to say that at least through the Supermarionation era, there were, probably on average, because of the time, a few more male characters in Anderson shows than there were female ones.
Yeah? Fair enough,
yeah. It therefore follows that there were, of course, more male puppets than female puppets.
Yes.
I'm glad you agree. Now, sometimes this allegedly caused a few problems during filming, namely not having a suitable female puppet when the script called for one to play a guest character or a background character.
Right, okay.
Now, sometimes this could be worked around in a fun or creative way. For instance, Dr. Beaker's cousin, Felicity Farnsworth, who appeared in a couple of episodes of Supercar, was created from a duplicate of the Beaker puppet made up to look female. Simple idea, but it was quite effective for the time and the style of puppet. However, Thunderbird showed us that male puppets didn't always make convincing female ones. There's a scene in the Duchess assignment where we see two older women in an art gallery, one of whom is played by Lil the Cook from Vault of Death, and the second, well, rather than create a new female puppet as this guest character, they decided to take a rather craggy-looking male puppet seen in a couple of previous episodes and put a long wig on him.
Great.
After all, it was only for one shot. Nobody was going to still be looking at these things 60 years later and thinking it stood out like a sore thumb. And certainly nobody was going to be overanalyzing it in a Fab Fact and a podcast about Gerry Anderson shows.
That was never going to happen.
No. So, moving on. Even in the Captain Scarlet era, though, we find female guest puppets were still a rarity. At this point, we should probably explain that one likely reason for this is that the heads of the male characters were sculpted with the necks attached as that one piece.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas on the female characters, the head had no attached necks, we've covered this before, were mounted on a very special female character-only neck joint. In other words, it wasn't just a matter of creating the head of a female character and sticking it on a standard puppet body, because you also had to make a specific female puppet body to go with the head to have the neck joint, you see?
Yeah, with you, yeah.
Gosh, but if the scripts that were being written mostly featured male guest characters, it probably didn't make much economic sense for the team there to create a load of female guest characters to have them on standby. So, when you look at all the puppets created during the Captain Scarlet and Joe 90 and Secret Service era, in addition to the male regular characters, you'll find a pool of about 50 male guest puppets.
Sure.
So, Richard, would you care to take a guess, not counting the regular female characters of the Angels or Mrs. Harris or Mrs. Appleby, how many female guest puppets were available during the 1960s Supermarionation heyday?
Oh.
If we've got 50 male guest characters.
Well, maybe 6?
Oh, that's not a bad guess, you know.
Isn't it?
I mean, you might think maybe half or quarter or 10% the number.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
It was 4. Just 4 of them.
Wow, okay.
Those 4 are, if you're wondering, Linda Nolan, Mrs. Rose, and the Mr. On models, Helga and Gabrielle. But obviously, as one show finished, the puppets that had played main characters in that one then joined the ranks of the next show's guest cast. So, for instance, several of the Angels from Captain Scarlet did appear in Joe 90. Mrs. Harris from Joe 90 then appeared in the Secret Service, and so on. Even so, by the end of the Secret Service, that would have been almost a dozen female puppets and about 60 plus male puppets.
Okay, right, yeah.
Now, of course, for the live-action shows, there was no problem with the availability of female performers, since real human women exist and are plentiful.
Yes,
and
about
crucially,
50% of them,
exactly, they do not have to be specially built for purpose. So that's great, isn't it? But even in Terrorhawks, there was sometimes a shortage of female puppets, for much the same reasons as the Supermarionation shows, in fact. Sadly, not many scripts called for female guest characters, so when some were needed for crowd scenes, they simply weren't there. So, for instance, during the restaurant scene in the episode Space Cyclops, we can see among the background extras Mary Falconer re-wigged with dark hair, and 2 different versions of the Sue Ellen puppet, one of whom ends up playing 2 women sitting at the same table thanks to some clever editing.
I like that. That's good.
It may also have been that several Space Precinct background aliens played male and female roles during their careers. We certainly know that male actors played female aliens. Kieran Shah as what was the character?
Estes. That's right. Yeah. Frodo's daughter.
Yeah, that's
Frodo.
it. Yes.
Frodo.
Not Frodo the Chocolate Bar, or Frodo from Lord of the Rings. Fredo, yes. So, Richard, do you have any memories on Space Precinct of seeing a guest alien being male one week and then returning the next as female?
No.
Okay, good. I remember sitting next to Christine Glanville while I think she was sculpting Podley's daughter.
Yes.
And her telling me how much effort they'd gone to create kind of differentiation between male and female faces for an entirely made up alien race. It's quite something to
That's right.
to create that and deploy it.